Hi Mum, you do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you feel empowered to be the matriarch of your little tribe, so you always feel informed and you always know your options. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? I will be your little village that makes you feel connected. I will do everything in my power to support you, so you never feel alone. Hi, I'm Alina, an everyday Aussie mum. Try not to lose my biscuits at my kids. You can tell by my cringeworthy accent. I have done years and years of education, therapy, my own private practice, as well as self-healing of all my own trauma. So I want to share with you all of my information so that no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. This is how you will live your best life, if you are mentally strong. So thank you so much for your time. I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Hello and welcome everybody to today's episode of emotional abuse. Loved ones cut the deepest, right? So it is quite normal for us to shape our reality around those who have had an influence over our lives. This can be caregivers, friends, or romantic relationships. This is where we can get all our self-worth and status and how we learn to behave and react, how we learn to connect, and what is expected of others. So it's interesting when we grow up, sometimes we think that everything's fine, it's not that bad, but then obviously as an adult we can be really hypervigilant. We kind of accept or tolerate behaviour that we know that we shouldn't, and this is all a part of that conditioning process. So the majority of us just assume that emotional abuse is yelling, swearing, put downs and threats. Yes, you are right, but so are criticisms, never feeling good enough, judgments where you never do anything right, unrealistic expectations which you always fail. Not showing love when you actually succeed or you do good. They're not attentive to your needs, so there's no affection or nurture. There's stonewalling, so refusing to communicate or giving you the silent treatment. And then they won't acknowledge your presence, so they're really quite cold and dismissive. So often these additional emotional treatments can hurt more than verbal abuse. Or even, it just kind of goes on. It's awful. So I'm going to give you the 12 most common types of mental abuse that are out there at the moment. So you just count on your finger as I say them, which ones that you've encountered and who kind of it resonates with. Number 1, name calling. When someone uses derogatory terms like idiot, loser or stupid. 2, gaslighting. When someone makes the others doubt or understand their own reality. 3, making threats. When someone makes intentions clear to possibly inflict pain, control or damage. 4, withholding. When someone does not give you attention, affection, or shares any feelings. 5, dismissiveness. When someone puts another person's needs always as irrelevant. 5, constant criticism. When someone judges or shares negative ideas, opinions about another. 6, humiliation. When someone shames, embarrasses another, or reduces their own self-worth. Blaming. When someone says the other one is guilty or have done something, but it's actually untrue. 9, silent treatment. When someone ignores the other person on purpose or pretends they don't exist. Gosh. 10, belittling. When someone says a thing to lower the self-worth and belittles someone else's achievements. Isolation. When someone prevents the other from seeing other people like friends. And finally, trivializing. When someone claims the other one is overreacting or being dramatic. Isn't this interesting? So out of those 12, how many resonate with you? How often have you experienced that? Right? And it's interesting, things like learnt behavior. How have you, as coping mechanisms, done that accidentally to someone else? Okay? Let's get deep. These are all learned behaviours and can be developed into coping strategies to protect ourselves. If we were raised in a household where all of the above is familiar, then this is considered normal because it happens to you. You saw it all the time. It was almost like expected responses to your behaviour. There's this quote I read recently about emotional immaturity. Emotional immaturity is generational. So if you have parents that did this, that were quite dismissive with this kind of narcissistic behavior, potentially their emotional immaturity is something that they learned. It's generational, so helping them to actually realize what they're doing and how it impacts other people around you. So if you have experienced this molds and shapes your development and teaches you what is safe, who you can trust, and what I deserve, and ultimately how I should be treated, and then the romantic partners I actually look for as an adult. So then accidentally you're repeating the cycle. For example, if you were told as a child it's not okay to cry, it teaches us to withdraw and disconnect from our own emotions. We now believe that our own feelings don't matter. If we are told that nothing you did was ever good enough, as an adult, it has the potential to develop into perfectionism traits and potentially OCD behaviours. So as Aussies, this is so common. Just think about how many times you've heard, "Don't worry about it, she'll be right." But really, it's actually telling us to 1, bury our feelings, 2, don't talk about it because it's too much for me, 3, denial, which actually is a survival mechanism, and sometimes your brain does choose that as an option. So it's not safe to talk about our concerns. And then we shut down. Thanks, right? It's so interesting that as a whole, we may not have realized we have experienced some form of childhood trauma, such as this form of emotional abuse. This means that our needs were not met. Physical, so these are your different kinds of needs, okay? You have physical needs, such as affection, touch, and cuddles. Your emotional needs, if they were ignored or you didn't feel good enough, or even social needs, so isolation and limited interactions with others. It's almost like this emotional volcano results into adults who are people-pleasing, develop low self-esteem, struggle to recognize our own emotions because we were never allowed to explore or express our emotions. So as an adult, you detach. Now it's feeling numb. You can get really sensitive to rejection or avoiding it altogether by isolating yourself. So then this is a form of self-sabotage. So this self-sabotage, when we accidentally do this, obviously the underlying anxiety can be, if we self-sabotage, it can give us a sense of control back in our life because at least we know what's going to happen when we sabotage. We can now feel empty and then even display as societal what we talk about now as narcissistic personality traits, right? This explains why we may treat others the way that we were treated as children. It's now a learnt behaviour. You're accidentally repeating the cycles. But this is this thing that if you actually know and put a label to all of those 12 things I told you earlier, they're actually emotional abuse. It's not acceptable anymore. We all need to evolve and understand how we were raised, what we're being surrounded by, what we have tolerated. Are we accidentally repeating it? And now it's time, enough is enough. So all is not lost. Always remember that all your reactions are normal. You survived the best way you knew how with the skills that you developed to cope and to stay alive. Okay? So if we want to be able to evolve, we need to change this pattern. So there's a couple of different steps. So number 1 is actually recognizing it. Don't fall back into that pattern of emotional immaturity or denial. Okay? Realizing that your adult behaviors are or can be a result of your childhood experiences or even romantic relationships that you were surrounded by that were normalized. So how can we change them? Who do you want to be surrounded by? How often do I accidentally do this? And when I do this from now on, how can I change and recognize that and even take accountability and apologize for what I've done? These are amazing steps into breaking the cycle. Number 2, we have to learn kindness and acceptance for who we are. Practice how to be warm and nurturing to yourself. Understanding your needs and how to help keep yourself feel safe. so you don't actually rely on others to make you feel safe. So this is about having internal validation rather than external validation. So you're happy with yourself, you know your authentic self, you're proud, and when you make mistakes, you can have compassion, acceptance, and growth, as opposed to being this people pleaser that if someone's happy with you, you're happy with yourself, but if someone's upset at you, then you're upset at yourself. So we need everything to kind of change. This can also be done by learning emotional intelligence. I'm going to be doing a whole podcast on that eventually as well, to help us understand what emotional intelligence actually is. So also self-care tips without guilt. Hello mums. And understanding what's going on with your body. So with your physical reactions, where are they coming from? Why they may be happening. So in terms of your physical reactions, that can also be somatic, somatic. So when you have experienced little traumas in your life, because it's so overwhelming for you in that moment, it doesn't live in your brain anymore, it kind of now lives in your nervous system, which we will talk about another time. So then when you have that familiar sensation or incident happen again, somatically it lives within you. So remember, if someone's getting upset or yelling at you, and then your heart starts to increase and you start getting butterflies in your tummy, or when you start getting angry, your fists start to clench, and then you almost get this hot feeling, but if you're unable to say anything, then it's like your chest gets really overwhelmed. These are examples of what's happened to you and how things can live in you somatically in terms of trauma. And trauma doesn't have to be huge. Trauma can be little things like all of these emotional abuse over and over and over and over and over again. Imagine being constantly just ignored. Someone just completely ignores your existence. In sociology, they say the worst punishment a human can experience is to be ostracized, is to be thrown away. Because as humans, we're all mammals, we all want to be connected, and we all want to be accepted in some way. So if someone's using these emotional abuse tactics towards us, it can be devastating. It can ruin our self-worth and self-esteem. It can either get us into this dysregulated fight or flight. So we need to understand what it's actually been doing to us, calling people out on that behavior, and giving yourself permission to have self-worth and to have a voice to be able to then stand up and say, hey, you're stonewalling me. Don't do that. That is awful. Using these words to be able to articulate that I don't want this anymore, and I don't want to accidentally then do this to my own children. This helps you to now be kind and gentle and patient with yourself, rather than critical or accidentally attacking others. So if we can learn self-compassion, you are making the positive change that you deserve to break the lifetime of reinforced learnt behaviours. So no, please don't blame the parents. They were trying the best at the time with the information that they had. So if your parents had healed all of their trauma, they wouldn't then have accidentally treated you this way. So if we can have almost this grief and loss cycle and get to acceptance that they tried the best that they could with the information they had, if they can't heal their trauma, if they haven't been self-aware or in therapy or had any of this like you're doing, you listening to this is being proactive and breaking the cycle yourself. Holding on to resentment and blame can be exhausting and destructive. The only way to find a resolution is to work on yourself. If this information is triggering or upsetting for you, please be brave and speak up. Get help, talk to a therapist like myself, or even someone that you feel respected. Implementing these strategies and be mindful of your own thoughts. Don't believe everything you think. Mindfulness is actually being regulated, listening to yourself, relax your mind, and learning how to self-soothe. This can help you understand what's then going on with your body, where there are physical reactions, where they may be happening, and when they actually began. Imagine these physical sensations and realizing they've been here since you were 8 and you've been living with this forever. Okay, so just a quick reminder on what it looks like for those types of emotional and mental abuse: name calling, gaslighting, making threats, withholding, dismissiveness, constant criticism, humiliation, blaming, silent treatment, belittling, isolation, and trivializing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. If you have any questions, always feel free to reach out. But all of my podcasts are going to be this amazing series of things to help you get bigger, stronger, and be mentally strong. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire podcast, and for that, I want to thank you for your support. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at supportivetherapy_MSM podcast. MSM is Mentally Strong Mums. And you can find heaps of free resources online at www.supportivetherapy.com.au. Supportive therapy is my little private practice. So today, if you found my information useful, can you please leave a review and subscribe? So by leaving a review, it's a value exchange because I value your support, and then I hope you value my information. So anytime, please let me know what topics you'd like to see covered in the future. Get in touch in the comments on Supportive Therapy social media networks. So thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, you beautiful mum.